Welcome to another episode of Unscripted with Marilyn Morales. Today, my guest is like a brother to me. I don't know him long, but in the short time that we've known each other, we have grown extremely close. I actually look to him for a calming presence in my life, and he has been there for me countless times. I can't even tell you how many times. I'm so inspired by this young man that I absolutely had to have him on my show. Let me introduce you to my brother, Raul Marin. Raul Marin is also known as the Wise Wolf. He is a poet and author of Rise with Gratitude, poems to inspire your growth and greatness. He is an award-winning speaker and Maxwell Leadership speaker, coach, and trainer. He is also the co-founder of the Empowered Journey Mastermind Group. He has worked for 18 years in adult ESL education and for 18 years as, and get this, DJ and photographer for private events as DJ Rumba. His mission is to be inspiring light in this world. When you share your talents, the world is brighter. Let's welcome Raul to the show. Hello, my brother.
What's up, hermana?
Well, listen, you have such a colorful past. I always love hearing about your two sides, Mr. DJ Rumba, which is like a whole other personality, a whole other person, and Raul Marin, the educator, right?
Yeah.
You know, and we met what? How long ago did we meet? Goodness, I don't even think it's been a year. I think we met virtually. We knew each other on the virtual platform. And then I think it was in May. It was in May in Amelia and Daniela's event that you were speaking and competing. Yes, first time in person.
Yes.
Instant connection with the two of us. And to me, you have always been a very calming presence. Everybody that knows me knows I'm not calm all the time. You know, I have a little edge to me. I'm from New York City. I have a little edge, and sometimes I have to be, talked off the ledge, and you've been able to masterfully do that. I will tell you, there's only one other person in my life that's able to do that, and that is actually my real brother, Albert, who has been able to do that for me. So my real brother and my spiritual brother, Raul, you guys are a lot alike, and I am blessed to have you in my life.
We are blessed to have you. Trust me, you are a force that deserves to be protected and loved and appreciated, because there's good forces out there and there's bad ones, but you're one of the good ones. So you have the wolf pack behind you.
Thank you. That's another thing, right? The Wise Wolf. Where did you get that name, the Wise Wolf, and why?
I have always had a huge respect for poetry. I remember being in middle school, reading it. The Maya Angelou's, the Robert Frost, those two come to mind right away, like that,
Right.
and many others. And I wrote in my post recently, because I'm having my very first virtual event that honors poetry, because April is National Poetry Month. So I said, what better way to do my very first event than to honor poetry, right? And I just remember being in complete awe and respect of the power of those words that people like Maya Angelou and Robert Frost and all of these great poets, it takes a lot of deep thinking to put words into those poems, whether it's in a book or in there's a lot of thought that went behind it. Even a couple words, there's some really deep thought in there. And I remember reading those in middle school and thinking, God, I'm so inspired by the power of those words. I wish I could do that one day. I would love to write a poem. I would love to write a book. I was just in awe. And fast forward to a couple of years ago when I started to really appreciate and love myself more than I ever have, and embrace, reading and writing and reflecting. There's his pen name. I don't even know his real name because I know him by the pen name that he has, which is Young Pueblo.
Hmm.
He's originally from Ecuador. But if you follow him on Instagram, he has some very inspiring posts that he does. Some of it is poetry, some of it is just his deep reflective thoughts about, peace and growth and inspiration. And I thought, like, wow, I like that, Young Pueblo. I need a pen name too. And I'm thinking to myself, boy, how am I going to come up with my pen name? And I thought, well, let me just start at the beginning. What does my name even mean?
Mm.
And I Googled, what does Raul mean? And I was very pleasantly surprised to see that Raul means wolf counsel.
Wow.
And I said to myself, well, wolves. But wolf counsel, I mean, let me get a little creative with this. And I said, well, counsel reminds me of counselor. And a
Mm-hmm.
counselor is uh, a very knowledgeable person, a very giving person, it's a very wise person. And
Right.
then light bulb. As soon as I said wise, I said wolf counsel. What? Ha! I got it. Wise wolf.
That was totally divinely inspired.
Yeah.
That was divinely inspired, I have to say. And actually totally suits you. Totally suits you. I always wondered how you got the wise wolf. So, yeah, that's amazing. I love that story. I will tell you, poetry and I don't describe myself as being able to be as creative as poets. I love quotations, and quotes come usually from a poem, right? They take a little piece of a poem, and that's a quote.
Mhm.
So they actually go together. The poetry that I always thought of when I was growing up are those that rhyme, right? Roses are red, violets are blue, that kind of poetry. And in school they teach you different kinds of poetry, but in my mind I could never actually get it. I could never really get myself into poetry until I met you and Carmen Gonzalez. You guys opened me up to a different type of poetry, and actually now being a mother and a woman, I can understand poetry very differently than I did when I was younger. So tell me, what
Mm.
can you share with us? Something that happened in your life where you knew that life was changing for you and that your life would never be the same.
Well, I've had quite a few of those, but
Mhm.
in this short life that I've lived. But I'm going to speak to one that I hope that for anybody listening and watching, our this particular episode is going to resonate with them and with their kids who are college bound or in that state of, should I go to college or not? Which those numbers are across the board, as you may or may not know, that people aren't really jumping to go to college right now,
Yeah, true.
and that raises some concerns for those of us
Yeah,
who have been in that space as educators, teachers, uh, teaching assistants, principals, administrators. It's like we whether and there's people out there who don't go to college. They're highly successful as business entrepreneurs, and that's great. You know, but definitely give yourself a chance and figure out if it's for you or if it's not. But it is a concern that numbers in education are going down, or they're
right.
on the decline. And I remember wanting to first I wanted to be an actor. That didn't happen. And then I wanted to be a print journalist. That didn't
Mm.
happen. So it's like, and I'm in my late teens, early 20s. It's a lot of it's a lot to reflect on at such an early age with life closing doors on
Yes, it is.
me. And I I remember having a conversation with the advisor that I felt like this is where life is going to change real quick. And
Hmm.
he asked me, I always ask my students, do you have a plan B? I don't ask with the intention of you being ready for failure. I ask because it's good to keep your options open, have choices. And I said to him, so do you have a I'm sorry that you didn't make it into the College of Journalism, but did you have a plan B?
Hmm.
And I said, no. And when he said why, he said because I was fully intent and I was committed and I was motivated and I was inspired to make it. But I I didn't make it. He's like, so, and he said, have you considered studying literature?
Okay.
And I said, you see how God works in your life. It's like if I don't study literature at that time, knowing that I would be a poet and author a few years later, I mean, it's like, wow.
Right. Right.
you know,
Sometimes these things that we think are closing our paths are actually just made for to pivot us, right?
Mhm.
Not closing a door, just changing your direction a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I said, I have not thought about literature, but he said, and the reason I ask is because why did you want to study journalism in the first place? And I said, I have a passion for writing. I could write in my sleep. It's like my whole life, writing has never been a challenge for me. Mathematics is my kryptonite. Don't talk to me about math.
Yeah, I second that. I second that. And as a nurse, I hated it.
I hated math with
I
oof.
hate math. Yes.
I don't even like to use the word hate, but my God, I fear math. Don't. Mm-mm. But writing, that's my language. You know.
Okay. So we dislike math intently. Go ahead.
But writing, I writing is my healing,
That's
my
your thing.
peace. It's joy. It's happiness is one level, and joy is its twin brother that is a little taller.
Ah,
uh, you know, so I said to the advisor, I just love writing. And he said, well, you're going to do plenty of writing in literature classes. And we have quite a few literature subjects that you can choose from. And I
okay.
remember, people are always surprised at how well I speak Spanish without a Salvadoran accent because both my parents are Salvadoran.
Right.
My mom is really good at listening to people speak and saying, "Oh, Marilyn's from Puerto Rico. I know it. Easy. Oh, this
Yeah.
person's from Chile, or this person's from Colombia." Like she's on. She knows
My mom did
accents,
the same thing. My mom always knew where you were from by how you were speaking. Yes.
and she raised me with an iron fist. Uh, that you this is who you are. You are a Latino. And I don't care if down the line you speak French, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, it doesn't matter. But in this house, you're going to speak Spanish. When you're at school, you can speak English, but here you're going to speak Spanish.
Mm.
And she put her foot down real hard when she noticed that I started to go more towards English.
Hmm.
So she raised me to speak Spanish, and I felt like I needed to take Spanish to another level. So that's why I told the advisor, said I would love to go down that path of the Latin American literature.
Wow. Okay.
So it's
That's powerful. That's powerful. It's owning
literature
you,
is,
owning who you truly are, standing in your truth, knowing who you
yeah,
are, right? Literature and you're Latin American, so you combine the two. Nice.
it is a whole nother level to read the books of those literary greats, the Gabriel Garcia Marquez's, the Pablo Nerudas, the Cesar Vallejos, the Jorge Luis Borges, and on and on and on. To just intellectually have these profound lectures and classroom discussions about what those books mean and writing 10 to 15 page papers on them.
Wow.
I mean, I
And you
would
got through all that. And you got through all that. That's amazing.
it was harder for me to do my to get my bachelor's degree in Latin American literature than it was to get my master's in adult in education.
Wow.
Not that doing my master's wasn't hard. It was hard too, very hard. But it
Okay.
was hard. It was intellectually and physically and mentally harder for me to get the bachelor's in Latin American literature than it was for me to do the master's. Like, no question.
Wow. So
Because
what made you decide to go from literature into adult education?
a professor,
Another professor.
I remember every single one of my teachers. I don't have any complaints about them. I was blessed to have a great education, educational experience. But it was this one professor who I also took a poetry class with. And it was in that poetry class that he said, grades to me are just a formality. We have to give you a grade.
Hmm.
But I don't care what that grade is. Could be an A, could be an F. I don't care what grade I give you. What I do care about is what you learn. Because if you haven't learned anything in my class, then I'm not teaching you. And that really struck my heart.
Hmm. And do you think at that point when you heard that it spoke to your soul and you said, this is what I want to do?
Yes.
Okay. So let's go back to when you first started feeling the no's, right? And you didn't have a plan B. So you were crushed that you didn't get into the places that you wanted to get into.
Hmm.
I can only imagine because I went through this with my daughter as well. She had started off, focusing her entire high school career doing things to position herself to be accepted into a school that could make her a child life specialist. Right? This is what she wanted to be, a child life specialist working with families like ours, siblings like she was when we went through my daughter's journey. So her whole youth, her everything was focused on this. And then when we got to freshman orientation, we were told, because I was with her, that they stopped doing the program that semester. They were no longer offering that program. So imagine she's now, signed, I'm going to this college versus another college that she could have gone to. She decided to go to this college. And then they tell her, not before, but on the day that we're starting on orientation, that she no longer has this. And she didn't have a plan B. She didn't have a plan B, just like you. It was devastating to say the least. Where, I had to remove her from the room. She was so emotional that she felt that her life was over, right? Was it similar to you? Did you feel that, that devastation, and how did you able to navigate out of that?
Well, I felt it. I felt disappointed. I felt like, you know, I felt like God was telling me,
No.
no, I don't want you to do this. As much as I wanted to, the fact that was a no,
Mm-hmm.
it hurt me temporarily. Because one thing that I always respected about my mother is that, you won't hear her vent, you won't hear her complain, you won't hear her speak anything negative. She will always see that silver lining. She'll always be positive. And and this is something that I feel like this younger generation of college of soon to be college kids, if they want to take that route, is that you've got to do the work. You
Mm-hmm.
can't just say, well, I want to do this, and then it's just going to be a
Right.
straight shot. Sometimes life is going to say no,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to have that deep reflective time for yourself to say, you know even though this is a no, what is it that drives me, that I truly enjoy, and that I could see the potential for growth in? And for me, that was when I got the no to acting, it was a quick transition to, well, let me get into because I love music,
Right.
which is the journey that took me to eventually be DJ Rumba. But in this case, when I didn't make it into the College of Journalism, I pivoted and I said something that I'm just very passionate about, and that I'm not going to close the door on it, is writing.
That was
And so
non-negotiable.
that was non-negotiable.
It has to do with this.
I'm like, it may not be journalism, so I'm going to do it with literature, because I knew that there was so much more for me to look at the world and myself, studying those literary treasures that we have in the Spanish language. And I was just in fact, I was helping. I had a student appointment yesterday, and I was just having a conversation with the parents about how college is hard. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're telling me, they're trying to get me to guide their sophomore son about the whole college experience. And I'm like, well, my college experience wasn't all that sugarcoat and sweet either. Like, I had to hustle and grind through it. Am I a successful person now? Heck yeah. But I had to work at it. And I
Right.
said, I remember it was 10:30, 11 at night, and I wasn't going anywhere. Like, I was busy writing a paper,
Mm-hmm.
and I was scratching my head, like, just I just can't think anymore. Like, I feel like, I don't know, I'm only on page 2 and I have to write 10 pages.
Oh Lord, that's
This
when you
is
need to chat GPT now, right? Back then,
like, I don't
when I
know
was in
what
school,
this
it was a
guy is
typewriter. I
saying.
didn't even have a Word, Microsoft Word. I had to type it on a real typewriter. So,
Um, I don't know what this guy is saying. Like, my goodness. And this person sitting across from me, he's looking at me and being a little bit of a bully, and
mm-hmm.
saying, "Well, I don't understand why you're struggling with that. I mean, you speak the language anyway." And I was like, "Well, let me ask you this question." I said, "Do you like to read Shakespeare?" And he's like, "Oh no, like that is hard." I'm like, "Well, thank you for making my point." And he was quiet, and he was like, and he just continued. He would,
And he took off. Good answer. Good answer. I like that.
you know,
I like that answer.
yeah, I
People
feel
think
like,
because you speak a language that it's simple. Again, I wish I would have done more like your mother did and forced my children to speak Spanish, but I didn't, right? Because I was born in New York, right? I wasn't born in Puerto Rico. I did speak Spanish and I do speak Spanish and read and write it because of my parents, but I didn't do that same thing with my kids and I regret it. because they're not as fluent. And now my daughter's like really needing it in order to communicate with people. And she blames me every single day for not doing that to her. But I remember when we had moved to New Jersey from New York, and they had put her in a Spanish class, right? And this is not yet middle school, but I think she was in 5th grade. And they had separated the Spanish kids from the rest of the class. And, and so she was like, Mom, they sat me with the Spanish kids in the class, and they all know more than I do, right? And it was based on her last name is where they sat her, right?
Wow.
You know what Mama did, right? Mama Bear was mad. And I'm like, so if you guys were studying Italian or French, would they have separated the French kids, the Italian kids, right? Would they have done that? So I wrote a letter, and I also met with the administration to say what you would not have done to any other ethnicity, you should not be doing to this one. That is unfair, that you're holding them to a different standard. My child is 2nd generation born here in the States, and is not as fluent as someone who is coming from their country firsthand, like the other children who English is their second language. Yet you bumped her into another category based on her last name. And you would not have done that to an Italian American child, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they got straightened out real quick. And that's that. But I was fuming that even today, that this continues, especially when it comes to the Spanish language, that they think it's so easy. It is not. I remember taking it, and it was one of my first languages, right? And it was hard. It's not easy at all.
No.
So I hear you. I can't even imagine now you taking literary works, which are a step above that, and trying to navigate that. So kudos to you for doing that. I truly, hands down, I bow to you for doing that. Do you always recommend a student to have a plan B now that you're counseling students? Do you now give that same advice?
I I don't necessarily tell them to have a plan B, but I tell them, be clear about clarity, right? You got to have clarity about what it is that you're passionate about, that inspires you, that makes you curious, that you find yourself, taking a lot of time out of when you're not at school to do it. That's your passion. Right. Go with that. And then obviously sometimes it's difficult to find a job in what you're passionate about. So I always tell them, think about what you're passionate about, what makes you curious, what drives you. Think about what is it that you're good at, that you could see yourself growing in, using your skills with what you're passionate about. If you can see that uphill, that potential for growth, then go that route, because sometimes you have to do a little bit of both. I had to hustle with a job that paid the bills while I was also teaching at night. I was just as passionate about it. Like, was I tired by the time the weekend was here? Absolutely, because I would also DJ. So I was hustling like Monday through Sunday, but I was happy because I was doing the things that I was passionate about. So
right, live life passionately, right?
Live life passionately, not
passionately. Hard. Yeah, and look at the goal. Keep your eye on the prize, I always say. And getting to that prize, there are so many different ways that you can do that. If you know what you like to do, it's not necessarily, just like you said, a plan B, but just a different alternative way to get to the same thing, which is what I said to my daughter that day. I was like, if God is pivoting us to something else, continue to have faith. It doesn't mean you're not going to achieve it. It just means you're going to achieve it in a different way. Right? And marched back in there, and I said, okay, let's go get this professor. they're gonna figure this out, and that's where Mama Bear got in again. But it's we're gonna figure this out. We're just gonna have to figure it out. And it wasn't until her last semester there, where she was about to graduate, where she started to work for Be the Match, the organization that helps you find your match, which is the inspiration for the company Izzy's Legacy, right?
Mhm.
It wasn't until then that she was like, oh my God. And the other day she tells me this, I am living my passion. I am living exactly what I wanted to do in a different way that makes sense for me. Had I done this, had I been that child life specialist, I would have been so unhappy. Profound.
Profound.
Profound, because as devastated as you were, as happy as you are today, because God said, maybe not. There are things that you don't know about this job that you think you want that are not speaking to you, right? And especially what you wanted to do. There are things about these jobs that we don't know, that God knows more than we do. And that's where faith comes in. True faith is letting go and letting God be in charge. Do you agree with that statement?
Absolutely. And sometimes I feel like you can look at it with the lens that it's not that God is saying no. He's like, I got something better.
That's right.
I
That's
got
right.
something better. You may not see it right now, but I've got something better for you.
That's right. And do something with the pain. I always say being faithful doesn't mean that bad things don't happen to us. People think, oh, well, you believe in God. Where's your God now, right? When things happen to you. I hear those things all the time.
Mhm.
Um, Still, whether it's in regards to me or someone else. And I'm like, whoa, you got this all wrong. You got this twisted. Being faithful doesn't mean things don't happen. It means that when we go through them, we don't go through them alone. And
That's
that
right.
we have a peace inside of us that says, he's got my back, you know? And he's going to help me figure this out. And he's going to send the people that I need in order to get through this time. That's what that means.
That's what that means.
It's no magic that I believe, and now there's magic and nothing will ever touch me. Not true. Things are always going to touch us. We live in a human world, right? It's accepting that we have backup. We have a crew,
Yeah,
that's
a
that's
wolf
gonna
pack.
back us up. So tell us what's on the horizon. What's new? You mentioned an event that's coming up. Tell me about it.
Yes. So again, April is National Poetry Month, and I said to myself, this is my time to take the wolf to another level, right? Like the for those of you who are thinking about writing a book, like the book is just the start. Like that's the platform that you build your empire on. Build it into a course? Are you going to build it into a mastermind? Are you going to build it into a coaching program? Or are you going to actually do events with it? And I said to myself, like, okay, it's National Poetry Month. It's now or never. Like I got to get rolling with this. And I
Right.
said,
This is your month,
this is
and
my
moving
month.
forward, this month you got to do something
This is my
big.
month. And it's like, we can't always look at other people for inspiration and be like, I wish I could do that. It's like, okay, do it.
There you go.
It's not gonna be perfect, but you got to do it. Let it,
So
let
tell
it.
us, when is it? What time is it? Who's in it? Tell me details.
Saturday, May 6th, 9 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Myself, Dr. Oliver T. Reed, Mandy Robinson, Austin Haynes, Kim Finley, my dear
Wow.
She-Wolf, Jessica Rahman. I mean,
What a lineup. What a
Daniel
lineup.
Gomez, Nikki Cuesta, Ivy Perez. I mean, I'm bringing heavy hitters.
I see that. I see that. So, guys, if you need a day to be inspired, and who doesn't need that? All right, a couple of hours early on your Saturday. You got the rest of the Saturday for yourself. You want to be at this event. If you have a love for poetry, be at this event. I tell you, this young man has inspired me to read things that I typically would not read and look for. And poetry now has become a part of my life when it never was before. So you guys have to be there. Now, how do they sign up for your event?
I'm going to share the link with you so that they can either get the registration or they can get a bundle of going to the summit and getting an autographed copy of my book if they don't yet have it.
And what's the name of your book, Raul?
Rise with Gratitude. Poems to
Rise
inspire
with Gratitude.
greatness. Oh, yeah.
Your first of many to come.
My first Yeah.
Listen, congratulations. I'm so excited for your event. Yours truly will be there. Absolutely. Can't wait to be there. Can't wait to hear all these fantastic people that you have lined up for this event. I know it's going to be very impactful. Do you have, now,
Yes.
this is the question that I ask all of the guests on my show, and I'd like to hear your perspective. How do you define success?
Success for me is when you know in your heart where your passion and your purpose meet,
Mm,
and you
love that.
manifest that meeting of the two. That
Love it.
that is success.
That is
For
fantastic.
me.
Raul, thank you so much once again for being on the show. Guys, make sure you visit raulthepoet.com. Get your book. It is
Yeah.
also available on Amazon, but if you want an autographed copy, get it from Raul himself. Sign up, get the bundle, join this event, get your book. You will not be sorry that you did. And for my viewers, I will see you next time.
God bless.
Hi, everybody. My name is Gabrielle Morales, and I am a recruitment coordinator for Be The Match. My journey with Be The Match actually began when I was only 9 years old. At that point, my 7-month-old baby sister was diagnosed with an extremely rare form of leukemia. Through the Be The Match registry, we were able to find a matching donor for my sister. And although a few months later, we lost her, her cancer was cured. Our family is so thankful for the additional months that we had with my sister. And ever since then, I've made a promise to myself to dedicate my life to helping children just like Isabella and helping families like ours by continuing her legacy. Hence why I now work for Be The Match. I love what I do so much, and I'm able to spread awareness about the huge need for more donors on the registry, especially those of diverse backgrounds. There is currently a huge disparity within the registry for minority patients, and we need your help. It is so simple to save a life and to be put on the registry. You can visit izzy'slegacy.com or text Izzy's Legacy to the number 61474 to start the registration process to be on the Be The Match registry, to hopefully be a life-saving match for a searching patient in need.